You're bracing your core wrong every single run, and that tiny mistake is quietly draining energy out of your stride before you even hit mile 2. Let's just sit with that for a second, because I know what you're picturing right now. Crunches, sit-ups, that six-pack burn you chase in the gym mirror, flexing under bad lighting, convincing yourself the progress is happening. That's not core training for running. That's core theater. It looks good. It does almost nothing for the thing you actually need on the road. Here's the part that stings. You've probably been doing core work for months, maybe years, and your pace hasn't moved. Your form still falls apart at mile 18. Your hips still ache after long runs. You did the work. The work just wasn't built for what running actually demands from your midsection. That's not laziness. That's misinformation, packaged as fitness content, sold to you in 90-second reels by people who've never paced a marathon in their life. So let's talk about what your core is actually doing while you run. Because it's not crunching. It's not flexing forward and back like you're doing AB work on a mat. Your core's real job, mile after mile, is resisting rotation. Every time your right foot lands, your pelvis wants to twist. Every time your left arm swings forward, your torso wants to counter-rotate. Your core's entire purpose out there is to say no, to hold the line, to stop that rotational energy from leaking sideways instead of driving you forward. And when that system is weak, you don't feel it as weak abs. You feel it somewhere else entirely. In your IT band, in your lower back, in a hip that clicks funny at mile 10. Runners chase foam rollers and new shoes and stretching routines for pain that started 3 feet higher in a core that was never trained to do its actual job. Here's your reality check, and I want you to actually hear this one because it's not opinion, it's data. A study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research put runners through 8 weeks of targeted core training and then measured what happened to their running mechanics and their 5,000-meter performance. The runners who did core work didn't just get stronger. Their running kinetics changed. Their times improved. That's the study in a peer-reviewed journal, not a supplement ad. 8 weeks. Real runners, real change in how they actually ran, not just how many crunches they could grind out. Now here's a question worth sitting with for a second. If crunches built running speed, wouldn't every gym rat with a shredded six-pack also be a fast runner? You know that's not true. You've seen it yourself. Some of the leanest, most core-defined guys in your gym can't hold an 8-minute pace for 3 miles without gasping like they're drowning. Visible abs and functional core strength are not the same thing. One is aesthetic. The other is structural. Running only cares about the second one. So if sit-ups are out, what's actually in? Anti-rotation work. Planks that move instead of planks that just hold. Palloff presses, where you're pushing a band or cable straight out from your chest while your torso fights to stay square, resisting that twist the entire time. Dead bugs, where you're lying on your back, opposite arm and leg extending slow and controlled, core locked so your spine doesn't budge an inch. This is boring. This is not Instagram worthy. Nobody's filming a slow motion dead bug for engagement. But this is the stuff that actually transfers to the road because it's training the exact job your core does at mile 15 when you're exhausted and your form starts to unravel. And here's the number that should actually bother you. Your pelvis rotates roughly 10 degrees with every single stride when you run. 10 degrees times every foot strike times every mile times every run you've ever done. If your core can't control that rotation, that energy doesn't disappear. It leaks. It turns into wasted movement, into extra joint stress, into the exact kind of instability that turns into an overuse injury 6 weeks down the line. You're not just running slower, you're running less efficiently, and your joints are quietly paying the tax for it. Let's talk about what weak core, strong legs actually looks like on the road because you've seen this runner. Maybe you've been this runner. First few miles, form looks clean. Shoulders relaxed, stride even, breathing controlled. Then somewhere around mile 8, 9, 10, depending on the day, something shifts. The shoulders start rocking side to side. The arms cross further and further over the midline with each swing. The hips start to drop just slightly on one side with every step. That's not fatigue in your legs. That's your core tapping out and your body improvising a workaround with whatever muscles are left. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody tells you at the starting line. Your legs can be marathon ready. Your VO2 max can be elite. Your lungs can have all the capacity in the world. And none of it matters if your core collapses at mile 18 because everything downstream of a weak core gets worse. Your stride shortens. Your ground contact time increases. Your form breaks down exactly when you need it most, in the final miles when the race actually gets decided. So here's where it gets interesting, because there's a second piece of research that ties this together even tighter. A study on integrated core training in trained runners found something specific worth repeating slowly. It wasn't just core got stronger. The training improved joint symmetry and metabolic economy. Read that again. Symmetry, economy. That means the runner's left and right sides started moving more evenly, less compensation, less of that subtle limp that isn't a limp so many runners carry without knowing it. And metabolic economy means they were burning less energy to hold the same pace. Same speed, less fuel cost. That's not a small win. That's the entire holy grail of distance running, wrapped up in 8 weeks of unglamorous midsection work. Now, let's actually build this thing, because knowing the why doesn't help you if you don't know the how. Twice a week. That's it. Not 7 days. Not some hour-long core circuit that leaves you too sore to run the next morning. 10 to 15 minutes. Twice a week. Built around 3 movements. Pallof press, 3 sets, both sides, slow and controlled, resisting the twist the entire time. Dead bugs, 3 sets, 10 reps per side, moving so slow it almost feels pointless, which is exactly when you know it's working. And a side plank with a slight reach through, arm threading under your body and back out. Because running isn't just forward and back, it's rotational, and your training needs to reflect that. Here's the part people skip, and it's the part that actually matters most. Do these slow, painfully slow. If you're flying through a Pallof press or rushing a dead bug, you're not training stability. You're just moving weight around and calling it work. Stability is built at slow speed, under control, exactly the way your core has to hold steady, rep after rep, mile after mile, when your legs are screaming and your form wants to fall apart. Speed in training doesn't build the thing you need on race day. Control does. And no, you don't need equipment for most of this. A resistance band for the Pallof press, sure, or even just a towel looped through a door frame if you're being resourceful. This isn't a gym membership problem. This is a 10 minutes on your living room floor problem twice a week, and most runners still won't do it because it doesn't feel like running, and it doesn't feel like a workout that counts. That gap between what actually works and what feels like it should work is where most running careers quietly stall out. Here's a cliffhanger for you, because I want you thinking about this on your next run, not just today. The next time you go out somewhere around mile 6 or 7, do something uncomfortable. Check your shadow, or record yourself on a straight stretch if you can. Watch what your shoulders are doing. Watch what your hips are doing. I'd bet real money you'll see rotation creeping in that you never noticed before, because you've been feeling this breakdown in your legs and your lungs your entire running life, and you've never once looked at what your torso was doing while it happened. That's the blind spot. That's the thing hiding in plain sight every single time you run. So here's the aha moment, and I want it to actually land, not just pass through as another fitness fact you forget by tomorrow. You've spent years thinking your core was about how your stomach looks. Meanwhile, it was actually the thing deciding how efficiently you move, how symmetrically your joints absorb impact, and how long you can hold real form before everything falls apart. It was never about vanity. It was about physics. Every stride is a small rotational force, and for years you've been leaking energy through a system that nobody ever taught you to train correctly. Not because you didn't work hard, because you worked hard on the wrong target. Think about that number again. 10 degrees of pelvic rotation every single stride, thousands of times per run, and your core is the only thing standing between that force driving you forward or draining you sideways. 2 studies, both peer-reviewed, both showing the same conclusion from different angles. Better core control means better kinetics, better economy, better symmetry. That's not motivational talk. That's what happens in a lab. Measured, repeated, published. Your body isn't guessing. It's responding exactly the way physiology says it should. So next time you lace up, I want you to feel something different at mile 10. Not your quads, not your calves. I want you to notice your center, quiet, locked in, doing the boring, invisible job it was always supposed to do. That's the difference between a runner who survives the back half of a race and a runner who actually finishes strong. It's not more miles, it's not a new pair of shoes, it's 10 minutes twice a week, on the floor, doing the unglamorous work nobody posts about. And once your core stops leaking energy, there's a whole other layer waiting underneath it. Because even with a rock-solid center, most runners are still getting pace completely wrong, mixing up effort levels that should never be mixed, training hard on days that should be easy, and coasting on days that should hurt. That's a different problem entirely, and it's the one we're breaking down next. How your different running paces actually show up in your body in 2026, what they're supposed to feel like, and why most runners have never once run a truly easy day in their life. That one's going to change how you look at every single run on your calendar. If this shifted something for you, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Share this with a running partner who needs to hear it. And if you want deeper breakdowns like this one, the full training resources are pinned in the comments, where you can become a member and get access to everything. See you in the next one.